Jason Grace isn't a good character, but I can fix him. Hello there, and welcome to today's video. Now today I thought I'd try and do something a little bit different. For those of you who watched my other Percy Jackson videos, you know that I've had my fair share of criticisms for the character of Jason Grace throughout his portrayal in the Heroes of Olympus series. Rick Riordan's usually stellar character work faltered when it came to this character in particular. It left Jason as a somewhat polarizing figure in the fandom, with some people loving him, others hating him, and the vast majority just seeing him as wasted potential. So, I really want to examine Jason as a character, and then offer up my ideas for how to improve him throughout the series. But with all of that out of the way, let's start by examining why Jason didn't really work as a character in Riordan's mashup of Greek and Roman mythology. Jason enters the Heroes of Olympus series with amnesia. That is a bad start that creates the immediate impression of blandness, as the amnesia just instantly makes him generic, with no real character traits to ground either him or the readers, especially when compared to Percy's wit and his humour, which is readily displayed throughout The Lightning Thief and the other books. The amnesia makes it really hard to relate to Jason in his very first book, especially because, the vast majority of readers have never really had to deal with amnesia. And this fact is made even worse as the series progresses, because the character traits Jason is given can pretty much be boiled down to everyone thinking that he's perfect. And the problem with that is that a perfect character, really doesn't give the audience anything to root for or latch onto. We get invested in characters because of their flaws and the journey they undergo to overcome those flaws. Now, speaking of fatal flaws, Jason's is temptation to deliberate, ultimately meaning he's chronically indecisive. But the only reason I even know that is because it's listed on his Wikipedia page. And on top of all that, his deliberation between Roman and Greek camps, it feels like it comes out of nowhere. It barely gets developed, and it's resolved pretty easily. It makes Jason feel really hollow as a character, and contributes to Camp Jupiter just not feeling as cool as Camp Half-Blood. And this lack of development for Jason is a chronic issue throughout the series, as Jason never truly gets an emotional arc to go through or a hard personal journey to overcome. It leaves the character feeling just the exact same from the end of The Lost Hero right up until the end of the Heroes of Olympus series. And on top of all of this, Riordan blatantly disregards the show don't tell rule, often having other characters describe how great or powerful Jason is. One of Riordan's favourite tricks is to use Percy as something of a measuring stick for other characters to tell the audience that Jason is just as cool and just as powerful as Percy, without ever actually giving him anything all that cool and powerful to do. We're told that Jason is this terrific leader who led Camp Jupiter to impossible victories, but we never see him really take up any significant leadership role, or help guide the other demigods in any meaningful ways. Jason's relationship with Piper felt forced, with the relationship built entirely on Hera's manipulations, rather than the character's choices or any genuine chemistry. Comparatively, Percy and Annabeth's relationship is fleshed out so well, feeling like both characters balance each other out, and it ends up elevating them not only in their ability to fight monsters, but also as characters. Piper and Jason's relationship really only serves to flatten both characters. And then there's the bigger picture problem, and that is the fact that Jason is constantly compared to and overshadowed by Percy. Percy's wit, his humour, and his relationship with Annabeth serve to further highlight how little character Jason was given, as well as to further expose the issues with his relationship with Piper. Everyone in the series, and even the fans outside of it, constantly compare Percy and Jason. I've been doing it throughout this whole video. And this fact is made worse by Riordan constantly either pushing Jason into an opposing role to Percy, or by telling the audience that Jason is just as powerful and cool as Percy, without ever showing us. By doing this, Riordan is creating an unconscious bias. See, readers have spent 5 books following Percy's adventures, witnessing how he overcomes his flaws and the incredible feats he's been able to achieve. We don't really get any of that with Jason. So, when Riordan tells us that, hey, Jason is just as powerful and as experienced as Percy, and hey, he did quests that were just as hard, the audience doesn't really believe it. So, now that we've rather thoroughly gone over the issues at the heart of Jason's character writing, I'm going to do my best to fix all of these problems. Here's how. The first change I'd make is to release the Son of Neptune book before The Lost Hero. Now, this does 2 things. First, it reintroduces the world and the new series to us with Percy in the main role, giving us a much smoother transition from The Last Olympian into the Heroes of Olympus series. The benefit here is that we're still getting Percy's POV, so the introduction of completely new POVs doesn't feel quite as rough as it does. Secondly, putting the Son of Neptune first allows for a build-up in anticipation for the reveal of Jason in the next book, as a lot of the Roman characters kind of constantly refer to him, and his loss is clearly felt throughout Camp Jupiter. This immediately gives the audience a reason to want to meet Jason, as the constant comparisons to Percy begin to build intrigue rather than detract from Jason's character. And it's also important to note that this would be the book where the comparisons end. After Son of Neptune, there aren't going to be any more overt comparisons between Percy and Jason beyond just subtext. Now, with The Lost Hero, an immediate change that will help Jason so much is to have a new opening chapter with Jason and the Romans laying siege to Mount Othryus. This way, we actually get to see Jason destroy the Titan Lord's headquarters, and maybe even the battle with the Titan Kryos. Now, this serves to give us time with Jason as a fully formed character before he gets amnesia, allowing the readers an opportunity to know more about Jason than Jason does as the book continues. I'd also change Jason's fatal flaw from temptation to deliberate to perfectionism. I mean, he was raised by Lupa, who valued strength and discarded weakness, and he spent his formative years living at Camp Jupiter. I mean, it's a place that enforces discipline and order. Jason's strength as a son of Jupiter means that he not only has the strength to lead, but the right, and his way has to be followed with no deviations. His raising at Camp Jupiter and the isolation that would come from his towering strength also means that he values places and ideals above individuals, giving him a rather utilitarian outlook on life and the battlefield. This means that the conflict at the heart of The Lost Hero becomes about Jason beginning to accept that sometimes things don't go according to plan, and that individuals are worth far more than the mission. This would honestly create such an intense dynamic between him and Leo, as Leo's feelings of inadequacy and his frequent joking and improvisational nature would clash really heavily with Jason's leadership style. In this way, it would be Leo that would teach Jason to take life a little bit easier. And I think you could create a really interesting dynamic here, with an amnesiac Jason being a lot freer and a lot more improvisational. But as his memories slowly return, he begins reverting to his perfectionism. This could create some really interesting emotional conflict, as Jason's kind of left to wonder how, if things had been different, would he have been a better, more carefree person? In meeting up with the Seven, Jason would claim leadership of the group due to his heritage as a son of Jupiter and by merit of his past achievements. He would be doing it to live up to the ideals instilled in him at Camp Jupiter and the expectation of his Roman peers. But this would be a mistake, as his emotional conflict over how he used to be and how he enjoyed being when he didn't have his memories would lead to disaster, as he tried to enforce his perfectionism on the group, while also attempting to adapt under pressure. I mean, you could even have it where a mission that Jason leads nearly ends in disaster, before Annabeth is able to get things under control and ensure the mission is a success. From here, Jason would resign as leader, instead suggesting Annabeth takes over. And this course of action would have huge ramifications, as Jason would begin to doubt himself and his worldview, causing him to turn back to his perfectionism in an attempt to re-exert control. And this would get worse and worse, over the course of several missions, until Jason is sent on a mission with Percy, the demigod Jason has been comparing himself to the most on the quest, leading to both demigods clashing heavily and nearly messing everything up. And when Jason finally opens up to Percy, the two are able to have a genuine heart-to-heart, as Percy really understands where Jason is coming from. I mean, Percy also feels like he has the weight of the world on his shoulders sometimes, and that was once quite literally true. It helps create a solid foundation for their friendship, while also allowing Jason the opportunity to distinguish himself from Percy, and show the readers through action that he and Percy are in fact on similar levels of power. By going on this journey with a character who's trying to live up to an ideal of perfectionism, thrust upon him by others, and who's slowly overcoming it, realizing that he can't live his life based around the opinions around him, Jason immediately becomes a more complex and layered character. And I mean, the payoff would be the final battle against Gaia, where Jason has kind of learned to reconcile his need for perfection and order with the Greeks' more improvisational style, leading to Annabeth ceding command of the demigods to him for the final battle, as he proves himself in front of his peers and the assembled gods. Now, I think that crafting Jason this way really gives the readers a character they can root for, while separating him from comparisons to Percy and adding complexity to his story. Now, some of you might have noticed that I didn't really touch on Jason's relationship with Piper at all, and that was very intentional. See, I want to do a very similar video for Piper in the future, and that's where I'll really dig into the relationship between the two, as I think that it plays a much bigger part in Piper's story than in Jason's. Jason Grace could have been Raiden's opportunity to show a very different kind of hero than Percy. A hero defined by discipline, perfectionism, and his growth into a more human leader. With these changes, Jason wouldn't just be remembered as bland, but as a character worthy of his place in the set, one just as complex as all the rest. But, what do you think? Have I improved Jason significantly, or have I totally ruined his character? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you for watching. If you guys enjoyed this video, I'd honestly love to do it again, but more in depth. This one I really wanted to focus on kind of what Jason's core character problems are, and how you should go around fixing it. But, if you guys want me to dive in, almost book for book of how I'd rewrite Jason's character, I'd be down. Let me know down below.